Temujin spent 3 years in the stockade. It became a big mark of both her psychology and physical appearance. After all, carrying a heavy piece of wood around your neck when you grow up is not only difficult, but also harmful. But the moral injuries were certainly more severe than the physical ones, because he repeatedly performed dirty housework and had to see his relatives feasting on that cereal, who relatives of his father's brothers and uncles and Sugoi were idolized, and they diligently avoided noticing him because it was impossible to notice him, because it meant that it was necessary to save him. Something had to be done. He was relatives. 2. Sacred blood ties. But how do you do something if you bargain? And Cyril too is the new lord. You are the judge of only, and he's watching you to see if you'll look at Temujin with a sympathetic look. Is there any dissatisfaction with the humiliating position of this outcast criminal, who killed his brother, and relatives diligently hid their eyes trying not to notice Temujin, pretending that he did not exist here? The boy nevertheless saved up his anger, and one of the beautiful days when they lived and drank too much kumis, and left him to guard a young guard, going to get drunk, he escaped. He cracked his wooden, he hit his guard on the head and rushed off into the steppe. But apparently he didn't. He hit him hard enough because the guard came to his senses and screamed drunkenly and rushed to look for Temujin where to go in the desert. Without a horse sat Eleanor with a piece of wood, and he found a way out. He ran down to the river overgrown with reeds and hid among the reeds. Heavy piece of wood served as a float. He held his head on the surface, not allowing water to drown. 3 grams in the morning. Dispersed to the surrounding area and are unable to find it, but one of them do not even Jude bow a goal that is such as generic and slave another tribe subject your Jude Sarkhan Shiro. He came upon Temujin, saw it on was not given. He told him not to say that your face like the dawn. The fire you burn in the eye, sit here and be quiet, sharpens teeth by your 3 grams. Narrow relatives want to kill tonight, I'm coming for you. Was not given because the family to which he belonged, Sargon Shiro, he was like Surf's mouth and Jute forced to do the job, all sorts of bargaining for the cereal. So he never felt any attachment to this Lord Wyon Shiro. Not only not given it, he sent 3 times target of Temujin to look again at the places where they were already making fun of them, mentioned the fact that you are there in the light of day. Were unable to find this fugitive with a ribbon on the neck. You see my bad looking, let's see again. And then when they are tired, all cursed, and through this the search, and went back to drink kumis sober, counting on where he was going anywhere. Step without a horse, with a ribbon on the neck. Step nights are cold. It was in the 4-wheel go. Orhan Shiro helped you man escape from river, knocked him to pad his children heart fed. And this sly little man, he gave him a horse and gave a bow and 2 arrows, but didn't give me a seat, not a tinderbox, and said ride home. Why is he so entered? Because the bow lay the Mongols, the outside of a yurt, on the threshold. Well, on this most over the door to the influx of horse you could catch in the herd without problems. But the saddle was kept vertical, and it was not easy to take. And flint is generally a personal thing. What is the truth before it even happened? A moment more interesting music do not have anywhere. Then you froze this incredible river, and just as he just ate its services, and it hid under a huge mop of hair, which was piled on a cart. And a few days you Jude and rode around the neighborhood looking for a fugitive found, but they knew perfectly well that he's here somewhere, so they ransacked. They again came to wider varieties and began to throw so that the wool wagons poke her copies. But he said, who can this heat in such a terrible closeness? To hide under a coat for the night on the cold steppes, and the day just hot. There are 30 degrees of heat though. But the argument was so convincing that music, the nukers of the Torgu Kirill of the spirit, decided to really poke around in this wool and left, and the genie saved him. And then he gave him a horse, the bow, and he galloped away. And there is another thing. He will be caught by a comedian with a bow and arrow. But there is no situation, and there is no flint. They say, I don't know anything. I have nothing to do with it. But nevertheless, you have a groove, and he was not his height. Kika was an outsider at all, and he saved him. His relatives did not save Temujin. I thought about this following adventure that I experienced shortly after she escaped from Russian captivity. You are his family. There were already 7 or 8 horses, and one day a horse thief was stolen. 7 of them survived. Only 1 horse survived. The only horse that was saddled by Brother Muji on the shore. I was hunting on the shore. You came Temujin io Skonia means you drove. He jumped up and chased after the horse thieves to beat off Ashley well, as without the above risks before not surviving. And so he chased these horse thieves for several days, and finally tired of his hungry horse, and came across the steppe blacksmith's camp. Starting on this boy they talked. This boy together did not go to fight off the horses. This boy's name was Barchuk. Then he became the first, Kiram Genghis Khan. How did he convince a guy to follow them? A complete stranger saw this guy for the first time. Married Andanauri, the mother of Barty, gave her a luxurious sable coat, that taking away this coat and dinners, Temujin went to the sister of his father, the Khan of the Korean guerrilla. But where he was, I also who can still maintain. He was walking on the paved road, that he is still his father married a girl chosen by the father, and went to the only friend and ally his father. Crimean Khan burned out drinking. He gave him this luxurious sable coat, that guerrilla. When he saw the poor relations, dinner was to the poor. Then their savagery moved. His niche would not have been a normal clothing robe, and he is prepared to listen to everyone complaining about the life and handout. And suddenly, he is presented with literally royal sable coat. Remember how when Ivan the Terrible was proud of Russian sables? Yes, as foreigners from Europe, those with more snatched in bribes, and other Russian boyars. Roughly the same thing happened with China in Mongolia. In the 12th century, Sikh-Abadan still stands as a good world creator, is a real mecca of older grey hair here. And then it was still the more expensive. The magician and the gorilla's heart melted. He immediately recognized Temujin, son of the Andes, and said, "You got me a fur coat, and I'll hit you." Your voice sometimes. It is believed that they say the old man made a bargain. That coat decided troops know got the point, because the Koreans are surrounded on all sides by enemies. They in need of allies, and where to look for them. Not as the Mongols, where the son of Mushroom Desu Reddy could become a figure around which to unite, dissatisfied with the rule of the aristocracy. Of all these speculations, Taikiral spirits and the like, if he becomes the ruler of the Mongols, well then together, Koreans and Mongols would be able to fend off the numerous enemies that surrounded them. And there were many enemies, because Koreans fought with the recruitment of us. And Naaman entered into an alliance with Meshers, Wales and the Tatars. To you and to me too, and this kind of a block in the steppe, he pressed indoor. Paul was surrounded by. For so burnt out visit Khan Temujin was saving vents. The flow of the scenes in the horde Korean was restless, hated him to many. He had strong opposition within the Korean society, and it was the need for support. This explains the fact that he helped, because they are what Jean. She was presented a fur coat, and the coat is, as always in politics, only a pretext. And with the help of Koreans, Temujin was proclaimed himself the heir of his father. And after hearing about what he Kerensky Khan supports, this young brave man, to him dripped dozens and hundreds of men of all births in this special stressed secret legend voice about what to Temujin came from individuals from some kind of such work with this kind of glad not to come immigrant was the representative of the people of long will. What it meant, what it relatives betrayed him and helped him, strangers fact that it does not come happy, which was under the rule of his father, and come separate people who were nothing to him. By his father already was a smart man, he knew well. The family is evil, or as Jesus said, to the enemies of a man of his own household, but those who he personally owes. something of a friendship, or patronage or invoice here on those, you can rely on this. He concluded that when such a situation is possible only in one situation, when generic relationships and finish itself, and they are destroyed, and they're destroyed the report female aggression. With the Tatar cavalry turned Mongolia reserved field to hunt for Mongolian slaves, were needed wax to counter this aggression and his sky, and there we see destiny is ready and everyone is unhappy. Legions of the Tartars and Jenny tightened to Temujin very soon in his possession were Optima soldiers on the number of conditionals, so it denotes 10,000. In fact, of course, number 10,000 was not well made. This means that there were many of them, and yes, there is learning about what the son of a bitch and increases in the Mongolian steppes. Old enemies measurements. You remember great offense which caused the father of Genghis Khan I'll be able Bagata he repulsed the bride was taught to do, and they attacked the home of Temujin and stole his side, and with this innocent event. But think some woman drove someone some good there somewhere in the desert. Lost to do with this event went to an avalanche which becomes only Adriatic mine, and that's how it was when there was on the ice. The measurements of the pelvis and the meal was absolutely not ready for that. He could not to organize resistance to his small squad around him being scattered in different directions, and he jumped on a horse and inheritance. I rode on the mountain Birken Holden, in taking with him a wild clockwork horse, which was supposed to be a horse, for his wife's border abortion left without a horse was captured by the measurements there were in the and large accident, but came out very ugly. And himself there Eugen talked about that Dune Hordia us from Blevio to life. My life like life's Birken Hordia, we protected my life, is like life swallows the great horror of the test. You know that's not a hero, and on the other hand, if you think so, not a hero and alone rode to beat the horses against the 7 rustlers, and one strayed from 6, then attacked his enemies of the steppe, not as a hero who is lying facts, or Oster secret history, which has invested in the mouth of Genghis Khan that floor to make the fish for the grill, and suddenly he is now his wife stole the mighty tribe markets, is the same across the great steppe. Spread the words of this brave thanks to the brave, and he attracted people are dissatisfied with the order of the steppe, especially after the men were declared the fight with the Tatars as its main objective, and defeated the Tatars. Together with the guerrillas, the Mongols united around Temujin defeated the Tatars very soon after the war overboard. And this victory was crushing men. Revenge for the deaths of both High Khan. He avenged the death of his father. Was cut out a lot of the Tatars in this. Then he said that all who are above the cart Russia know. Then he will say Putin history of the stater will continue until, but really captured the enormous production, and this production turned him from a poor leader of some obscure the fugitives who flocked to him from all sides. And mighty lord, he was now on a par with Java Josekoas from Veranom Korean, and formed such a powerful union. Then they were 6 years with the frogs and roamed the steppes. Was friendship, do not spill water, all was going well, and then suddenly parted. And why they left historians still do not understand, because the intimate stories told us fact very vaguely that he gavacha stupar wander farther than here. That's where we made really shaking side. Temujin's wife, who didn't love Yermahu, he said that the locks we are tired of the need to pump out, and they all got the sickness. Nothing is clear. What to check? We will now fight off all our enemies together, and Yuvaka Sich A has gathered all the discontented around him, including those from the same clans that proclaimed Genghis Khan. They gathered in a completely different place and proclaimed Gakonya Muka on horseback, which means such a ruler of the steppe tribes as a confederate position, but as president of the confederation. So the naked split was on the one hand Yuvaka Birken, the tribal leaders, he had 13 tribes, and on the other hand Genghis Khan Temujin, who had 12 incense and came to him not of the tribes of it came to smoking private. And in this course, the big difference: with the one hand we see traditional Mongolian Khanate, unifying steppe tribes fragile in its basis based on the laws of tribal relations; with the other, we see the people of Long will quite bold to break up with her relatives and go to Temujin Genghis Khan, but also, there were the aristocrats who supported "You're a man because you think well." But the young man himself, nothing is at all business gavacha. He did the burnt just replace will operate, and they joined in, but nevertheless they were few. Between Jamahiriya Genghis Khan in 1183, there was a war, very strange war, in which Genghis Khan was defeated. Gavacha drove him into the gorge. The battle was betrayed on budget, or after this defeat, Genghis Khan was hiding in the gorge, has become a tough defense to prepare to fight to the death. And not Gavacha finished him instead. He fell in boilers, 70 prisoners leaders caught him in hands, and retreated and saved in essence of Genghis Khan from death, and has not only saved well. After he retreated, people amazed by his cruelty to cook to heal 70 people with boilers for the Mongols, were incredibly violent acts, and unhappy that he finished off Temujin. They are from him in droves began to desert immediately after the retreat of the Jama lords, trampolines to powerful and warlike tribe of freaks them. He is ready-sided Temujin Genghis Khan, and he was not only not weaker, but stronger than it was before the war. The Jams, and after this there was a victory over from the army, and it has occurred in such circumstances, what music men played at the expense of cohesive units, which he began to form. Realizing that the old thing is it all business gavacha, he did the burnt just replace will operate, and they joined in, but nevertheless they were few. Between Jamahiriya Genghis Khan in 1183, there was a war, very strange war, in which Genghis Khan was defeated. Gavacha drove him into the gorge. The battle was betrayed on budget, or after this defeat, Genghis Khan was hiding in the gorge, has become a tough defense to prepare to fight to the death. And not Gavacha finished him instead. He fell in boilers, 70 prisoners leaders caught him in hands, and retreated and saved in essence of Genghis Khan from death, and has not only saved well. After he retreated, people amazed by his cruelty to cook to heal 70 people with boilers for the Mongols, were incredibly violent acts, and unhappy that he finished off Temujin. They are from him in droves began to desert immediately after the retreat of the Jama lords, trampolines to powerful and warlike tribe of freaks them. He is ready-sided Temujin Genghis Khan, and he was not only not weaker, but stronger than it was before the war. The Jams, and after this there was a victory over from the army, and it has occurred in such circumstances, what music men played at the expense of cohesive units, which he began to form. Realizing that the old